Hello and welcome back to the Battle Room. My name is, of course, the Battle Room, and today we're going to be breaking down the teams from the most recent Victory Road August Challenge. Each day we get closer and closer to the World Championships, and we get closer to figuring out what is the best in the metagame. So today we have a tournament. There's around 200 people. Victory Road, for those who do not know, always they seem to be almost weekly at this point. They're constantly pushing out more and more of these tournaments. You enter, you pay money, and then you have a chance to win more money if you do really, really well. But most people, they do lose their money. But it's a great way to practice and to, get involved in the community. I'll link their website down below, so if you want to play in these tournaments, you can as well. But this was a tournament that took place this last weekend, and it's pretty interesting. There is clearly some winners and there's clearly some losers here, right? Notably, I would say that the Staraptor trend is still going on, right? Staraptor, he won the tournament. We're going to be talking about him, but he's still staying strong, and he wasn't just a fluke or a splash in the pan. He is fire. And Charizard has just looked worse and worse. Now, I'm never going to count my boy Charizard out. He was the first seed, but I believe there were only 2 Charizards in cut, and they were both Big Six. So let's take a look at these teams and see what's going on in this metagame. I somehow ended up at a power plant. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing or how I should leave said place, but I think your guidance in subscribing to the Battle Room on YouTube will guide me out of here. I'm really uncomfortable. There's some big machines, they're making a lot of noise, and I think I should get out of here. So please subscribe to the Battle Room. Enjoy the teams. So the first team we have here is Gustav's team, which is just going to be a pretty standard Delphox Floette composition, which is something we haven't seen a lot of very recently. Blastoise was the flavor of the month. He was looking real spicy. People were loving Blastoise. Blastoise was taking over the world, but now that the meta has begun to settle, Blastoise, it is known of his power. We all know how good Blastoise is. Floette has kind of come back here. Floette is still good. Floette isn't a trash mon. It's still one of the best guys in the game, so it makes sense that we see Floette. So this team is very much a Protect the Queen comp. This is the stuff we've been seeing for ages now. Sneasler and Cineroar are there to enable either the Delphox or the Floette. The fun part about this team, which makes it it's a hard team to pilot well, but at the same time, choosing the Mega you're going to bring to the battle is easy peasy, right? You look at their team and you go, is it more weak to Floette or Delphox? And then you just pick that Mega, and then you lead Fake Out next to it, right? Now, obviously, it's a little bit more complex than that, but at the end of the day, that's what they're doing, right? They're either leading Sneasler plus Floette, or Sneasler plus Delphox, or Incin plus Floette, or Incin plus Delphox. Now, obviously, there's more leads you can do, but those are some of the most simple things you can do. It's very, very effective. You set up the Calm Mind, you set up the Nasty Plot, and you start sweeping. Nothing too crazy out of the ordinary here. I do think the Sneasler running Protect over something like Quick Guard is a little bit different, but at the same time, it's Protect. It's not a crazy move to throw on. Akaberry Sinestro continues to be very, very effective, specifically in the Charizard matchup. Being able to switch it in to heal your Pokemon and live the turn, so you can switch out and heal again, is very, very big, and I understand the appeal of the Akaberry. Delphox is pretty simple. It is Modest Nature. Also, it is Timid Floette, which is something to note to give yourself a little bit of edge in the mirror. And also, the metagame is just speeding up more and more and more. So I think it kind of makes some sense. The Scarf Garchomp is usually a King Gambit, but it's a Scarf Garchomp this time, which I think is fair, pairs well with Delphox. It also gives you that huge speed stealing that sometimes these teams tend to lack. So I do like that decision as well. Otherwise, everything else is a pretty standard Protect the Queen comp. Nothing too crazy there. And then next up here, we have Code, who used a Froslass, the Froslass team. Whoa, holy, let's relax here. T-Bolt Froslass is crazy. But this is the normal Froslass team that we've come to know and love at this point. It continues to do well. You'll notice as well that it's going to be right above it as well, and you're going to see it right here as well. Wow. I didn't know there were 3 of you. So we're going to break this down one time. Well, okay, I'll break down this one because this one's a little bit different, and we'll touch on it each time, but it is the same team through and through, so this is going to be the big breakdown, right? The main idea here is that King Gambit is really broken. King Gambit's a very strong and good Pokemon, so you kind of just pair him with a bunch of things that help King Gambit. This is a Froslass team, but it's very much a King Gambit team. We have Fake Out, we have Rage Powder, and then we have the most disgusting Charizard answer in the game, because Charizard loves to beat up on King Gambit. I do like the choice of the Life Orb King Gambit here because it does give you some really good calcs, specifically into Charizard. It's very hard to live a Life Orb +2 Sucker Punch. You do take recoil every turn, but those calcs are too juicy to pass up, right? Charizard can live a Sucker Punch from a +2 Black Glasses King Gambit, but a Life Orb, it's very difficult. That extra 10% goes a long way when you start adding these multipliers. So I am a big fan of it. It does suck, but at the same time, it is very valuable, right? Just because you are getting the calcs that you shouldn't. Froslass is pretty easy because King Gambit also hates Garchomp, so boom, Mega Evolve. We have a Mega Froslass here. Froslass puts a ton of pressure onto Garchomp with Blizzard. Obviously, Blizzard in the snow is just lethal. It's just sick. I think Froslass is actually pretty well positioned right now. After doing some research myself, like if you look at the metagame, when you're not fighting Zard, Froslass is mighty juicy, right? It matches up very well into the Staraptor metagame that we're seeing. So it doesn't surprise me that we're seeing a lot of these players whip out Froslass kind of seemingly out of nowhere. This team is always top cutting these tournaments. I swear to God, each tournament, there's always one. There's one of this team. So it's really not going away. But I really like the choice of Thunderbolt. And you're probably saying, Colin, why do you like Thunderbolt? Blizzard and Shadow Ball are fire, and Aurora Veil is a great move. T-Bolt's sick because of the Wombo combos you can set up into Charizard. Charizard is still the best Mega in the game. He is not going anywhere. So being able to have that little bit of extra oomph to like pick off a Charizard with Aqua Jet plus T-Bolt or Sucker Punch plus T-Bolt, right? Seems very valuable. You also don't rely on the weather to hit your move. So I think it's a very cool tech. Also, I guess it's really just Charizard. It also could hit stuff like Melodic. I'm trying to think of other uses of T-Bolt, because obviously Basculegion, you're going to press Shadow Ball. Is there anything else in the meta that we'd really like to T-Bolt? Not really. Politoed? But yeah, it's still like a decent coverage moves, and I think those calcs are worth it. The Basculegion is really awesome because you get to run him very bulky. Now, this team doesn't have Aurora Veil, which is kind of the appeal of the super bulky Basculegion, but at the same time, it's still a good set, right? Like, you could probably run something else, but I do think the bulky Basculegion is still very potent. A lot of the items are taken anyways. We're obviously talked about the Swords Dance King Gambit. That is one of your big sweepers and one of the central integral parts of the team. Again, he gives you that little extra reach, specifically into Charizard, specifically into those Tailwind teams. That is much appreciated. We have King Gambit's best friend, Sneasler. Now, White Herb Sneasler is kind of interesting. We don't really get to run anything else because Focus Sash is way too important on Lycanroc. So White Herb Sneasler does go a long way, but I think White Herb Sneasler got a lot worse in this meta. Obviously, you don't see it nearly as much, and that's mainly because Sneasler can't live Earthquake from Garchomp when it has a Life Orb. So having the White Herb, you do risk that KO, which does suck, but at the same time, obviously not all the Garchomps are Life Orb, or you're not always getting hit by Earthquake, so it's still a good set. You just have to play it a little bit more carefully, specifically into that set. Obviously, Gunk Shot is very neat as well. It gives you big calcs because we are Adamant Sneasler, but we don't have a ton of attack. It is still going to be focused mostly on the bulk, so being able to have those extra base power from Gunk Shot is a big deal. Lycanroc is the Charizard Slayer, can kill him in Tailwind, in Trick Room, as long as it's not a Ferrograph. Lycanroc is just very solid at doing that one thing, but that one thing happens to be what the meta game is circling around, right? Charizard is the center, he is our sun, and we're just gravitating around him, and Lycanroc is able to burst through that sun and help you out a little bit. And I think Lycanroc is pretty cool. He obviously has value in other situations as well. Having that close combat with Tough Claws does a ton of damage. The fighting coverage is appreciated. I think he's like just good enough to be a solid Mon, and I think on this team he does really shine. Rock Slide obviously is Rock Slide, close combat for the basically stab because of close combat, or because of Tough Claws, and then Excel Rock is also going to get a boost from Tough Claws, so you're able to snipe even the bulkiest of Zards. And then finally, Scovillain. I think Scovillain is the unsung hero. I think Scovillain is a very strong Pokemon still. The metagame is still very physically focused outside of the Mega Pokemon, so I think he's still good, and I don't think he got any worse. Obviously, I think one of this team's biggest issues is going to be Garchomp, but being able to threaten him with either a Burn or a Blizzard is super valuable, and I think Scovillain also really enables basically everyone here, right? Like King Gambit loves a Burn. Basculegion loves when an enemy's burned, right? He can now be bulkier and still sustain those hits. Same with the Sneasler. Obviously, the Lycanroc, not really, but yeah, I think Scovillain still does fit the pacing of the team and just kind of enables everybody. It also gives you a double mega mix up, which I think is valuable. This team is just very, very good. It kind of gives you everything you could want, and we see good players continue to gravitate towards it, even though it is a regulation MA team. And then we're going to see it again here, but this one does have, okay, let me compare them, right? So this one has Super Fang. I didn't mention that, but Super Fang is kind of a neat move, just because like you're able to go before your Basculegion, before your King Gambit, some of your biggest threats, Super Fang, and then nothing can live a hit after that. This one is going to be Giga Drain, so you have a little bit better of a matchup into Garchomp. You burn him, you start Giga Draining, you're getting some HP back. It's also good in stuff like Basculegion. We're going to see Aurora Veil here as well. And then this one is actually Black Glasses instead of Life Orb, just relying on saying, hey, I still have Lycanroc, I still have Basculegion, I have good answers to Zard. If they're super bulky, I'll be able to play around that. Obviously, it still does do a ton of damage to Zard. But this is more of the vanilla version. Modest Nature as well. Adamant. And this one was actually Timid, which I thought was pretty crazy, because like Froslass hits a really, really good speed tier. It actually can outspeed Floette and Garchomp if it's at max speed Modest or close to it. So like, I don't know, I kind of think Modest is cool, but at the same time, Timid is very valuable into the mirror, and if you're expecting to play the mirror, it's pretty worth it. And you can see here there were 3 of them in cut, but this is the more vanilla version. I do like Aurora Veil, I do like Giga Drain. I thought Thunderbolt was kind of cheeky, kind of fun, but I do like the classic as well. And then we have a really cool Perish team. So this team is very, very similar to what Edu was using, but personally, I like this version more. I think Como is just positioned in such a sweet spot. Obviously, I featured it a lot on the channel. A lot of players are kind of honing in on Como as being a very strong Pokemon, specifically because he does get Overcoat to match up into those Charizard, Venusaur. This one doesn't even have that, but at the same time, he can't really get hurt by Charizard, and that's one of the best parts about Como. There's a huge lack of fairies in the metagame as well. If you don't fight Floette, it's really difficult to remove this guy, right? And then having Soundproof does make you immune to Hyper Voice from stuff like Sylveon, which can be incredibly valuable. And that's why we see Soundproof here. But I think this version seems slightly better than Edu's version, because Edu's version had Archaludon in that slot, but I think Como is a little bit better right now, just because of the way the metagame is positioned. So let's break it down. Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Perish Song is a pretty normal set on Gengars nowadays. The Gengars do tend to run all of the coverage now. They don't usually get to run Disabled. They're usually focused on having the Sludge Bomb option because they do have a Como, they do have a Swampert mode. So having the potential threat onto Floette is just so valuable, just because you do want to remove that Pokemon if you are going the Como mode. Because sometimes you do have to bring Como into fairies and you just have to deal with it. But that's the beautiful part about Gengar, is he can trap those fairies in, potentially Sludge Bomb them or Perish Song them, and then Como can clean up later. Or if you lead it, he can potentially come in and keep the Pokemon weak to Como in while the fairies can't switch in to protect them, right? So obviously Gengar Como, God combo. It's been a God combo since 2018, dude. People were using this way back then. It's still going to be good. I really love the Swampert plus Mega Gengar combination. I think Swampert in Team Preview is a nightmare, dude. He's a nuclear bomb ready to explode on your team, right? So I think Swampert can be very, very fickle and very scary, and if you don't lead correctly into him, you just get kind of blown up. And that's the beauty of Mega Gengar, is you have to lead well into the Swampert Aggro Rain mode, or you have to lead well into the Mega Gengar Instant Perish Song mode. So I think this team has multiple dimensions that just are very frustrating to approach in Team Preview, and that's why I think it's good. We see Hypnosis Politoed with Perish Song Weather Ball. Hypnosis is obviously just like good in Perish Song. It's kind of a dumb move, and it's not very good, right? It's 60% chance to put you to sleep. But the thing is when Perish Song is ticking down, if they hit that move, it might actually just end the game. And so I think having the ability to potentially win on a coin flip is super worth it. So I think Hypnosis, although a bit stupid, is very good here. Politoed also is going to provide the rain for our Swampert, which is super valuable. Como, as I mentioned, is just all about setting up and sweeping and finding good positions. So he helps with the help of Gengar and Swampert. He is able to do that. Clanging Scales is obviously his main damaging move. Aura Sphere is obviously super valuable to stuff like King Gambit. I also think Como is good with Gengar because it matches up well to stuff like King Gambit. Having the option to put pressure onto both of King Gambit and also stuff like Incin, right? Or even Basculegion before Pokemon are KO'd is just really valuable because they do like to lead those ghost types into Gengar, and they can't do much to Como. Vivillon is a demon, dude. This Pokemon is so annoying. You can pair it with either the Perish mode or the Swampert mode. Like, I've played against this team where they just lead Vivillon and Swampert, and you're like, holy, they're just going to deal damage, right? They're just going to press EQ Sleep Powder. What am I doing? I also think having Vivillon is super important because we do have Politoed, but normally Swampert loves Pelipper. Pelipper, Swampert are a match made in heaven, so you don't have that flying coverage for the grass types in the format, so having Vivillon is very valuable as well. So I am a big fan of that little combination. It's kind of like a budget Swampert Pelipper, but it can put you to sleep. And then, of course, we have the Pasha Berry Instant, which is very, very important to helping set up those Perish songs. He's going to drop the fire move because we are a rain team, but still his typing is valuable. He's able to fake out. He can function in both modes. He can help set up Como. He can be a switch in for Swampert, or he can press fake out plus Perish Song and then Parting Shot, right? It's very valuable. Protect doesn't really hamper you, and it's just a good move in general. But I think this is the best Perish Song team right now. Obviously, as the meta develops, I think there will be other people cooking Perish Song, but as of right now, that is my favorite one. And then we have Luca here in top 8. So Blastoise didn't really show up in the last tournament, but we have one here. So this is the standard Blastoise team, like actually bar for bar the most standard boring version. Yeah, this is the one. So we have Quick Guard Sneasler, which is obviously going to be very valuable into Blastoise specifically. Like next to Blastoise is really nice because they do want to try and hit you with sucker punches or fake outs, and being able to block that after you fake out turn 1, it's money. It's good. Sneasler also is going to be that Focus Sash, so it can just be an annoying fake out bot. It runs Poison Touch because that little extra damage is really nice on fake outs, and it doesn't really need Unburdened. It just wants to be a fake out bot. Then we have Incineroar. I'm going to skip King Gambit. I'll come back to you. Incin is obviously the other fake out brother. It helps set up the Shell Smashes. It helps set up the Nasty Plots. And then it is able to just continuously parting to bring in the other fake out or to bring in Sinistra. It's just super annoying, man. Then King Gambit is obviously going to be our third setup mon. We have our double megas that can both set up, but sometimes you don't even bring them and you just bring King Gambit and he's able to just set up a sweep, right? It's very difficult to cover all three of them, and I think that's what makes the team strong. If you're staring down Incin King Gambit, that's very different than staring down Incin Blastoise or Sneasler Delphox, right? And they have all the options. It's not like they don't get to choose. So you have to kind of call them, or you have to come up with some lead that can answer 3 different setup Pokemon and 3 different supports, which is almost impossible. That's why this team continues to do well. But he is going to be that Life Orb again to get those big calcs, specifically on stuff like Charizard or Garchomp when they can live the Black Glasses one. Life Orb, much harder. Blastoise is going to be the Shell Smash Dark Pulse set as the usual Blastoise. He is one of the focal points of the team. He can win a game in 2 turns and just sweep you. Obviously, him pairing with Sinistra is really, really valuable because Sinistra can heal him, enables those water spouts. You have the Fega guys. You get the point. Sinistra is going to be that Aquaberry again to switch in on Charizard, and Delphox is going to set up. Okay, I'm done. I don't want to talk about that team anymore. Oh, awesome. I get to talk about Floette again. Okay. Okay, I do want to say this one's a little bit different. This one's a little bit interesting. This one's Lewis Markle. Okay. For those who do not know, I personally think Lewis Markle might be like the best like setup protect the queen player. Like, I want to say one of the most consistent, maybe the best in the world, right? Like, Lewis does win tournaments. He does do really well, but he's not winning like every tournament with this composition, but he does do well with this composition. This is just how he likes to play Pokemon. We saw it a ton with Calyrex Shadow Rider, and he won a regional. He flew to the United States to play in a tournament from, where is he from? Germany? He flew from Germany, and he almost won a regional here. He started out like 4-2 or whatever, and then literally won every round until he's in top 8. So he's very, very fearsome when it comes to protecting his queen. And his queen this time is actually going to be Floette. So this is kind of a team that we saw a while ago. This is just the team he's been spamming. This is his version. I believe he used it in the past at the European regional that had Pokemon champions on it. And this is just his bread and butter. So he has some different choices. I gotta talk about something new. So obviously, Incin Sneasler are pretty boring, but he does have some cool tech moves here, right? We have Helping Hand and Incineroar. Pairing that with both Floette and King Gambit can be very, very valuable. We also have one singular Mega Pokemon. There's no Delphox, there's no Blastoise, there's no Charizard. There is just Mega Floette. So Helping Hand specifically with that Floette can do insane damage when you're at +1. He's also timid nature to try and be faster than the metagame and also just faster than other Floettes because we don't have Delphox to rely on. We don't have Charizard to potentially combat those Floettes. We need to rely on a no fairy resist team, right? So being the faster Floette, I think, is essential. So the Floette is Draining Kiss, Dazzling Gleam, which is kind of cool. It's just like, hey, I'm going to heal and I'm going to do spread damage. I don't have a big nuke, but you kind of do have to respect me because I'm going to be healing constantly. I'm going to talk about Sneasler next. I'll come back to you, Sinistra. You're pretty crazy, but Sneasler here is going to be White Herb. Our sash is taken by something else, so we have White Herb Sneasler, we have Fake Out, Dire Claw, Close Combat, Protect. Obviously, White Herb has fallen off a lot. I mentioned it earlier. Not being able to live Earthquake from Life Orb Garchomp sucks, and that's just kind of like, hey, cut the tape, dude. We're not using that anymore. Then we got to use Sash, right? But obviously, it's still pretty strong. We're still seeing it at these high levels. But yeah, a White Herb is still, you do have those things you do have to respect, but it does do a lot more damage, right? It's Adamant Nature, it's got Dire Claw, Close Combat, it's got the nuke move. This one's also obviously unburdened as well. It's just a much more like solid threat. I feel like Lewis's whole team, everything does a lot of damage. You know what I mean? Like seriously, it may be a Protect the Queen comp, but really the only Pokemon that's supporting here is Incineroar. Everything else does have a lot of damage behind it. Let's talk about Sinestro. Sinestro is going to be Focus Sash, Hospitality, obviously, right? Like the Focus Sash is nice. You switch it in, you heal him, you're good to go. But then you look at the moveset and the nature and you're like, oh, this thing's offensive. This thing's aggressive. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like max speed, max special attack Sinestro. We can't really know for sure. Lewis does not want to share his teams, but I do think that that is probably very strong. It's going to be hitting like a truck. It also might be like a little bit of speed and then mostly just HP and special attacks still. You still want to live hits because you're switching it in a lot, which is kind of crazy to put a Focus Sash on a Pokemon you switch in, but at the same time, it makes a lot of sense because whenever you play against these teams, I'm sure we've all played against it if you play the game a lot, they'll have Floette in and they'll have Incin in, right? And you're like, okay, I could kill Incin here, so they're probably just going to hard switch to Sinestro. I'm going to call that, right? And you go, Kowtow Cleave. I'm going to Kowtow Cleave. But you still want to put something else into the Floette spot just in case they don't, right? So you Kowtow Cleave the Incin, but now they switch in Sinestro, and it lives with a Sash, right? You now have to potentially throw both hits into the Sinestro, just giving him more options overall, making it an even better switch in. No matter what super effective hit it can take, it will take it. So I think it's kind of neat because it functions as an offensive item in a way where he's able to, he also has Shadow Ball for some reason, so he can attack you aggressively with Shadow Ball. He can trade well into Basque Legion, or he can pump the brakes and just say, hey, Sinestro's supposed to heal. I'm going to try to make sure it can heal as much as possible. So you just switch it in and let it take the hit down to Sash, then switch it out and bring it back in because you don't really care. You're just trying to drink the sweet tea, the matcha. So kind of cool. Like everything's kind of cool about his team. Like credit where it's due. Like I was falling asleep on the other one, but this one, I'm wide awake. I'm liking this one. We also have that Swords Dance King Gambit, which is going to be like our second mega here. Obviously, you compare it with the Fake Out Brothers, but then we round it out with a Scarf Basque Legion, which is just like, he's just a big threat, right? Like, it's like, hey, we did it, man. We beat up that Floette. We're finally here. There's like one guy left. I got 3 Pokemon. It's over. I won, right? And then no, he comes in and he last respects, Rage Powder, last respects, Fake Out, last respects, and he's killing your whole team, right? It's just kind of another insurance policy and even more damage on a team that you would think lacks damage. Everything does damage here. So it's kind of a cool take on it, right? Like you have to respect the Basque Legion leads, you have to respect those openings. Also, Basque Legion Floette just seems like a nasty opening, right? Like Scarf Basque Legion, you're like, hey, I could wave crash you, or I'll just flip turn into one of my supports. What are you going to do about it, right? Like, what am I going to do? So I think it's kind of a cool team. I got excited talking about that one. I'm not even going to lie. And then next up, we have Marcus Coe, who is a notorious Dondozo player, and he has decided that it is Big Six time. But as with Big Six, we got to talk about the interesting parts of Big Six and the lame parts of Big Six. And so I think talking about Floette, Whimsicott, and Charizard, normally I would say that they're the easiest to talk about and they just start like whatever. But the Charizard, dare I say, he has an insane move on him, right? So let's just talk about Floette and Whimsicott first, because they don't really change. The Charizard usually doesn't change either, but in this case, it did. So Floette and Whimsicott are really boring. They run the same 8 moves with the same items, and usually the natures can differ a little bit. It's going to be timid Whimsicott. Whimsicott, man, he is max special attack, max speed, 2 HP. Well, I don't know where the 2's going. You can do what your preferences are. 2 HP, sure. Let's just say it's 2 HP. But Moonblast, Tailwind, Encore, Protect, that moveset does not change. The nature doesn't change. The item doesn't change. This Whimsicott is perfect for Big 6. It is just one of the best Whimsicotts you can run. And if you're going to run something that's not this, you have to have a good reason not to. This Whimsicott is just good. Tailwind Pressure is amazing. Moonblast is a nuke because your Sash, you have max special attack. Paired with Floette and Fairy Aura, your Blast and Moonblast life is good. Encore is just a silly broken move on a priority Pokemon. And then Protect. You kind of want to protect so he can stay alive longer, or maybe set up another Tailwind. And then Floette is all about being a Glass Cannon nuke. This one is timid. Some of them run bulk, some of them run no bulk, some of them max special attack modest, some of them run max special attack timid. You never really know what the Floette is going to be speed-wise or bulk-wise, but they do run the same moveset, right? Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, Light of Ruin, Protect. Now, some of the Floettes they usually tend to focus on the damage that... I'm kind of lying when they say they can do anything, but you usually want some damage, and this moveset is just good. Moonblast is your single target fairy move. Dazzling Gleam is your spread fairy move. And then Light of Ruin is your nuclear bomb fairy move, right? It's very simple. It does damage. You all know what Floette does, right? I don't need to keep going. The Charizard. So normally, when I talk about Big 6, I've talked about Big 6 like, man, I don't know. Like, I just wonder how many hours I've wasted of my existence discussing this stupid... team comp, but here we are. So normally when I talk about Big 6, the Charizard, I say, oh, it's modest Charizard, it's very bulky, max defense, max speed, and then you run Heat Wave, Weather Ball, Solar Beam, Protect. Hold up. What is the third move there? It's fucking Ancient Power. Ancient Power Charizard? Sir, Ancient Power Charizard has hit the metagame full force. So what this thing is, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. This thing doesn't even kill enemy Charizards. I want you to know that. It doesn't kill Charizard. They need to have chip. But the thing is, getting that chip is not as hard as you think, right? You can get it from Sucker Punch. You can get it from Jet. You can get it from Moonblast on Whimsicott, or you can get it from your own Heat Wave on Charizard. I always talk about this idea that I think is really interesting in VGC. The threat of something is sometimes greater than the use, right? And so I think it's really important, especially in an open team sheet environment, because like sometimes you're sitting there and you're looking at their sheet and you see something like Ancient Power Charizard and you go, holy shit. Right? They don't even have to click it and your mind is spinning, right? But they don't have to take any different approach. They say, I'm leading Charizard here. I'm having a good time. And you're like, if he leads Charizard, I lead my Charizard. I'm in a bad spot now. Normally I always lead Charizard in this, right? It's this small micro adjustments they don't have to press. So they can press Heat Wave and Ancient Power you next turn, right? They could Ancient Power you from the get-go. You never know what they're gonna do. Obviously, I think this Charizard is gonna be trained a little bit faster as well. I like it. I do think that there's some small things that you do have to account for with the Ancient Power Zard. Personally, I think Ancient Power Charizard is better when paired with like Life Orb Venusaur, right? Like, was there a Toxpix team that did it? I swear there was. But I'm not seeing it. But so what I like about like Life Orb Venusaur paired with this kind of Charizard is that you can run it because you have the grass coverage elsewhere. Where on this team, you're a little bit more threatened by stuff like Basket Legion and stuff. But Ancient Power is still kind of neat. Let's be real, right? So we're done with Ancient Power. The other options here are usually like, this is where the team gets like kind of more personalized. So Garchomp is going to be running Roselli Berry, no Protect, which is something that we haven't seen in a while. This was kind of like the OG version. But Calculus, again, this is the first seeded team. It did get fifth. They did lose into top 8, but this is the first seeded team. This is the only battle they lost to was to Joji using the team that won, which we're going to talk about. But still, at the same time, like this team did go undefeated, so. But the Poison Jab's kind of cool. It's very, very good into mirrors, specifically into Big 6 mirrors. Roselli Berry's great into Floette. The Akaberry King Gambit also really, really good into Charizard mirrors. Very, very valuable. You also notice that it has Iron Head. So I imagine that a lot of his game plans do hinge on this King Gambit, and I bet he does lead it a lot, specifically into the enemy Big 6. And then we have Life Orb Basket Legion as our offensive, our Life Orb, right? Because the Life Orb can go on any of these three. Usually you see it on Garchomp or Basque. But we're seeing it on the Basque here. it gives the basket a lot more damage, especially in the lead. It's a nuclear bomb. Like, let's be so for real right now. It hurts when he hits you with the wave crash. So I think that it's a very cool take on the team. Ancient Power Charizard is pretty crazy, but otherwise it's just a lot of defensive choices, which I think is neat. And then the Life Orb going there. Top 4 time. Let's talk about top 4 where we have another big 6. So as I did all that talking about big 6, and then this is the like standard big 6 in my opinion, right? We have that timid Whimsicott I talked about. We have modest Floette here instead of timid. You also notice that it is just Solar Beam Charizard. This is like the most boring version of it. Stomping Tantrum is kind of neat on Garchomp. It's a very interesting decision because Garchomp's best move is Earthquake, but at the same time, if you bring Flow, you're going to bring Garchomp most games. He's like one of the best guys on the team. But when you don't bring Charizard, you're like, damn, I don't have a ground move now. Like, I have to like work around my ground move. This sucks. And then running No Protect Kingambit as well is another choice that kind of hampers your Earthquake spam. So I like the choice of Stomping here with the Life Orb. It's still going to be that single target ground type damage that you love. Just a little bit, you know, like the ground type damage that you love, but single target this time. And then we have Chopaberry Kingambit with all the coverage. Again, this is good in the mirror because it punishes the enemy Kingambit who's trying to low kick you. And then you also can punish the Floette, but you're a little bit weaker to Charizard because you don't have the Akka Berry. And then we have Mystic Water Basket Legion because, again, the Life Orb is on Garchomp, which is, personally, this is the version that I like. But Calculus was cooking with some of its modifications. And then we have Jonzu here in top 4 with a Kingambit Sneasler, the team that we've already talked about and love. But this one is going to be the same version that we saw down here from Code here. So this is going to be the Life Orb Kingambit, the Thunderbolt Mega Froslass, and then this one's actually Giga Drain and not Super Fang. And then it's Mystic Water Basque. Ooh. See, I kind of like that small adjustment, right? The Citrus Berry Basque is good, but throwing on that Mystic Water, I like it because it just gives you a lot more pressure onto the opponents because you're like, hey, I don't really need to be the bulkiest Basket Legion anymore. I could run a little bit of speed. I don't have Aurora Veil. So I like that choice a lot, actually. I like that little modification, and maybe that's why I did a little better. Adamant Lycanroc, we talked about all this before. But yeah, this team is just very good. I mean, crazy to see it pop off so hard in this tournament, I'm not going to lie. And then we have a double finals mirror here. I'm trying to see. Let me look really quick. Is there any differences? I don't think there's any differences. That's nuts. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about this team that won the tournament. So I've been playing with this team quite a bit. I like it a bit. I've been trying to test it for Worlds. I think it's cool. It's a cool team, but there's some parts of it that really frustrate me. I don't know if... Oh, okay, that's... I see one crazy difference here, I think. Because this one's Joji's version, and then this one's the... Okay, yeah, there's one difference I just noticed. But I think this team is really good. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm really conflicted on it because I think it's strong, but at the same time, it has some really big problems. But at the same time, you can't ignore a double finals finish. I think everyone and their mother is going to be testing this team on the ladder. I'm not going to lie to you. But okay, so the idea here is that it feels like it has so much pressure on you at all times, right? There's so many, like in team preview, they can literally lead almost any combination of Pokemon and you're just sitting there like just fucked, right? Like Raichu Kingambit is a super potent lead, fake out Swords Dance, and then you just start paralyzing Kowtowing, or you Sucker Punch and Zap Cannon, right? It puts so much pressure on you. It's very scary, like the offensive pressure that it puts on. But at the same time, they could just lead Staraptor Arcanine, right? And they're like, hey, I'm just pressing Tailwind, and you have to somehow respect the guy who's just gonna blast you with a head smash, right? It's just something you got to deal with. Or they could just lead for Rigoraph Sylveon, and now you have to deal with a Trick Room mode, right? The team has Trick Room, it has Tailwind, it has Swords Dance, it does Fake Out, it has a Sash Arcanine that's just so annoying to deal with, and then it has the beautiful spread damage of Sylveon. I think it's such an incredible team. It just sometimes feels like it just doesn't have any defense, and so if you get caught off on the wrong foot, you're like, oh, I don't have switch-ins, right? Like everything is so Glass Cannon and so powerful that you're like, hey, nothing switches in except for Fergraph. So it can sometimes feel a little bit clunky in that way. But let's break down the moveset. So we'll start with Raichu, which is the one difference, I believe, through the finalist teams here. Yeah. Okay. The one difference is this Raichu. So on the second place Raichu team, we have Encore over Focus Blast, and on the first place team, we have Focus Blast over Encore. So what Raichu's able to do is he is awesome. He can fake out for King Gambit. He can fake out for Trick Room if you really needed to. But then the Zap Cannon just fits this team flawlessly, right? It's basically like Thunder Wave because it can't miss, and it always paralyzes. So you can pair him with Arcanine or Sylveon or King Gambit, and you can just start setting up Zap Cannon, Hyper Voice, Zap Cannon, Head Smash, Zap Cannon, Flare Blitz, whatever you want to do, right? And it's just so annoying to deal with. And then you also have to respect Fake Out, and then this one actually is Encore. So if you try to protect into the Fake Out Swords Dance, you're screwed. It just puts even more pressure onto you. And I really, really like it in the open team sheet environment because they have to say, oh my god, if I double protect on the Fake Out, like if they let Arcanine Raichu, you're like, oh, I'll just double protect, right? I don't want to get Fake Out. You now can't do that because they might Encore you. So it's a very cool tech here. Protect is obviously essential. Zap Cannon is our strong damaging move that always paralyze, right? I think the Raichu just adds, like, he's so scary, dude. Like Raichu Sylveon, Raichu Arcanine, such good leads with this team. Then the Arcanine is just going to be a nuclear bomb, dude. Head Smash, Flare Blitz, Extreme Speed, Protect. He is just all about dealing that big damage. Head Smash is such a goated move in this format, that rock coverage. His speed is also just perfect right now. It outspeeds all the modest Zards, right? Now, obviously, if they were max speed timid, we might be cooked. But right now, they're all still modest, so you're able to just head smash them. And you can have this Pokemon alive at 1 HP, and he just one-shots you. His ability, Rock Head, does protect you from the recoil of these moves, so he does just get to continuously spam Head Smash and Flare Blitz with their high base powers at no cost. He's just slamming his head into you, and it sucks. E-Speed is really, really nice priority. I think it's essential to the dog, and I think it's great. Now we have our second Mega, which is Staraptor. So you run Dual Wing Beat because it's very, very positive into stuff like Venusaur and those Sash Whimsicots as well. So Dual Wing Beat's cool. Close Combat is going to be our stab fighting move. Tailwind, I think, is where it just brings everything together again, right? So our first Mega, we can paralyze them. We can have a good time. We can put a ton of pressure on. But then our second Mega has Tailwind. So now, not only can we paralyze them, but we could just set up Tailwind with Staraptor, who's actually very, very consistent at getting Tailwind up. It's one of the things I love. Like, it feels like Mega Salamence, right? Like a little bit, you can see it. You can see it. So you just set up Tailwind for your boys. Sylveon, King Gambit, Arcanine, all love Tailwind, right? They're chilling. They're having a good time. The winds are blowing behind their head. It's ruffling their feathers or whatever they're doing. And they just blast you, right? With Kowtow, with Hyper Voice, with Rock Head, Head Smashes. So Tailwind just fits the pacing of the team perfectly. And then obviously Protect to keep Staraptor alive. And then, fuck it. Hard Trick Room mode, right? We have a Trick Room mode. Fergraph's able to set up Trick Room to enable both Sylveon and King Gambit, who are naturally very, very slow. But the beautiful part is their speeds are so perfect that they can be enabled by Zap Cannon, Tailwind, or Trick Room. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. That's why this team is so good. That's why we're seeing a double finals appearance of this team. I didn't think this team was that good. Like, double finals is crazy to me, but when you see it, you're like, oh, maybe this is just one of the goated teams of the format, right? So we have Helping Hand to enable, like, I like Helping Hand here. Personally, I love Thunderbolt Fergraph, but I think we have an electric type, and also I really do want to enable both Staraptor and Raichu. It just makes Fergraph much more flexible, right? Because you do bring it just into, like, Fake Out or whatever. So it's nice to have that little extra reliability instead of the coverage, right? To say, hey, I want my fast guys to do damage too. Also, Helping Hand with Sylveon and King Gambit is still extremely valuable. Protect, you want Fergraph to stay alive. Protect is like one of the best moves on Fergraph. It may seem kind of stupid for me to say that, but I do think Fergraph's a Pokemon who does sometimes like to bypass Protect. I personally don't know if I'd ever want to play this Pokemon without it, because it puts on so much pressure because Armor Tail is such a broken ability. And then Psychic is going to be our stab attacking move. And then we have the Sylveon with Hyper Voice, Hyper Beam, Quick Attack. It's just your bread and butter Sylveon that's just meant to do as much damage as humanly possible, and that's what it does. It does big damage with the Fairy Feather. And then finally we have King Gambit, who I think also just brings the whole team together, right? He's good in Trick Room. He's good with Raichu. He also pairs really well with Staraptor, because one of the things people love to do to Staraptor is intimidate it, actually. It does have the contrary ability, but if they lead it, and you always have your instant in the back, you can switch it in anytime. You can also lead it. But if you switch it in at any point, it will just intimidate the Staraptor before the Mega Evolution occurs. So having that Defiant user, I think is nice. So he helps Staraptor. Fake Out Swords Dance is deadly, game winning from the Raichu. And then also just Trick Room King Gambit. It's just good, man. So I think this team is just quite near perfect. I think its biggest issue is that there aren't many defensive switches, and that's just kind of what holds it back. Now, the only difference between the finalist team is going to be this Focus Blast and Raichu instead of Encore, which I think is fair. Like, Encore is very cool, and I've talked about how awesome it can be, but Focus Blast also just nukes enemy King Gambits, which I do think this team could struggle with. It's very, very potent into stuff like Arcaludon. It just gives you so much pressure. It also just lets you hit ground types, which can be valuable, especially if you pop them with a Sucker Punch, or you hit him with a Quick Attack or some other move, right, in Extreme Speed, and then you want to pick them off later. So I do think that it can be valuable, but I do think Focus Blast, I think Encore can be valuable, but I think Focus Blast is overall better. So now where do we go from here? Where's the metagame going? Obviously, with this team winning this tournament, I think this team was very, very potent and very relevant going into all these tournaments and into Worlds. I wouldn't say that this team is a surprise team at all, but now it's cemented itself as one of the good teams, right? Like, this team is going to be very, very potent. Also, interestingly, the Hail team rising up is very strange. I think it makes sense, but at the same time, it's kind of crazy that there were 3. That really threw me off guard. Obviously, Big Six is going to do well. There's a new Paris Song team on the field, and then of course there's also going to be those remaining ones, right? Like, if we scroll through here, you can see a lot of the remnants of old, right? Of the teams that are still doing well. We see Big Six. We see Charizard, Venusaur. This team is actually kind of cool. We see the old Kevin Hahn is running the Aerodactyl Mega Charizard Sylveon version of that team. We see William Brown running Sunrain, which is still a team that's relevant to the conversation of teams that are good. And then we just see a lot of the same teams that were also at the top. The Delphox, Big Six with Incin. And then we also see a little bit of the Toxapex team that is obviously still there. So it's very interesting to see where the meta is going to go from here. But Charizard, he's going to come back. He's going to be great. But yeah, I think it was a very cool tournament. I'm really happy that this team did win because I think it's very cool. And I think it's just so much fun to play. So I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown of this tournament. I hope you learned something. And I'll see you next time.